MX Linux has got it right in many things, but there are still things I would like to improve or change. These are my 20 things to do after installing MX Linux. And before we start, I would like to introduce you the sponsor of this video, Skillshare. Skillshare is a great place to explore creative classes including writing, video making, music, design, photography, web development, different business topics, lifestyle, and productivity. There are many useful beginner and advanced classes. For example, if you want to learn Linux in deep, I recommend this complete training course to get your dream IT job by Imran Afzal. It is an extensive course that covers all topics, from Linux installation to administration and troubleshooting. The first 1000 people who click on the link in my description will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium. Then it is less than $10 a month. Enable double click. We can discuss it for ages. Somebody likes single click, somebody likes double click, but I prefer double click and I believe this is what most users like. MX Linux has single click by default, so let's enable double click. To do that, you go to menu, open MX Tools, then you need to go to MX Tweaks, go to Config Options, and here you need to disable single click. Then you click Apply, and now whenever you want to open anything, you need to use double click. For example, if you want to enter folder downloads, you need to double click on it. But previously it would open if you just single click on it. Of course it is a matter of taste, but I prefer double click over single click. When you start your MX Linux, you probably see this window. And it is very useful if you dual boot MX Linux with Windows or other Linux distributions. But if MX Linux is the only system on your hardware, then maybe you would benefit from disabling this delay and start booting your system as fast as possible. You can easily do that. Again, you need to open MX Tools, go to Boot Options, and here you just need to disable Timeout. Put it 0, apply, and next time you reboot your system or you just start your system, it will boot right away without those 5 seconds delay. Fix screen tearing. If you installed MX Linux and you experience screen tearing, you can try to fix that issue. I have seen many people who reviewed MX Linux, they complained about this screen tearing, and I have also seen many reviews where you can see screen tearing right on the screen. Luckily, you can easily fix that. For that again, you need to open MX Tools, go to Tweaks, go to Compositor tab, and here you need to play around with the settings. So these are the settings which work the best for me. For VBlank I selected X preset, and for compositor I kept default XFVM compositor. But you can try Compton or none, and you can also play with settings here until you get rid of screen tearing. Just whenever you change settings here, don't forget to click apply. Hopefully it will help. Install Nvidia drivers. MX Linux provides many useful tools in their MX Tools, and Nvidia driver installer is one of them. So if you use Nvidia driver, you just click on this tool, enter your password, and the script will automatically detect your Nvidia card and install the necessary driver. But I don't have Nvidia card, that's why no Nvidia card was detected on my system. Similarly to Nvidia drivers, you can install Codecs with one click using MX Tools. You just need to click on this Codecs installer, enter your password, then you just click OK, and all the necessary codecs will be installed on your system. You will see the message that codecs have been installed successfully, and you can start playing different media formats without any restrictions. If you use HiDPI screen, you can also adjust MX Linux to look nice in HiDPI screens. You need to use MX Tools again, and you go to MX Tweaks, Display tab, and here you can easily adjust fractional scaling using this feature. This is actually very nice because in XFCE by default you cannot make fractional scaling, you can only scale your system by factor of 2, 3 or 4, but here you can easily enable fractional scaling. After you have selected desired value, just click apply, but I will not do it because I am recording video right now and it will screw up everything. But it works very well, I have tried it. When you install MX Linux, you set up both your user password and your root password. But in most of the cases, it is more convenient just to use one password for everything, for your user login and also for administrative tasks. And you can easily enable that in MX Linux. You need to go to MX Tools again, go to Tweaks, that's actually where you do most of the things. Then you go to the tab Other, and here you need to enable password for administrative tasks for the user. Click Apply, enter your password, and after that you can use your user password for both your user and for administrative tasks. So this is another debatable topic where you want to have your panel. And actually I also like to have my panel on the left, but I prefer a little bit different layout here. But from what I see with other users, most of them prefer to have the panel at the bottom. Luckily you can configure your desktop look as you want because it is XFCE, but MX Linux make it even more easier to configure. Again, if you go to MX Tools, if you go to Tweaks, and right here you have the settings for your panel. You can display it horizontally at the bottom or at the top, or you can of course move it to the right if you want. But I believe most of the users would like to have it at the bottom. You click Apply, so now the panel is at the bottom. And while you're editing the panel, you can go even further and configure how this taskbar behaves. Actually in MX Linux it is called Windows buttons. I don't know why they didn't call it taskbar, because that is what it is. But if you click on these options, you will see quite a number of settings here. I usually keep everything at default except that I select to group windows. Here I select always. So for example, right now I have two windows open which are related to MX Tools or MX Tweaks, and they are grouped together as you can see. The same would be if I open, for example, two file managers. They will be grouped together and I can navigate between them. I think this is a very useful feature if you have a small screen and you don't have a lot of space on your panel, and in general it is more productive when you group the windows if they belong to the same program. This is a small issue, but I think you need to fix it. So by default, when you move panel to the bottom or when it is on the left, you will see that the clock is very small here. And I think it's better to increase the font size for the clock here. And to do that, you right click on it, then you go to Properties. Here you click on this button, and you can change the font style, but I will only increase the font size to 12. Click OK. So now the clock is much bigger and it is more visible. Another thing you can also do here, you can change the size of this panel. To me it is little too slim by default, so I right click here, go to Panel, Panel Preferences, and increase its size to 42 pixels. This is I think much better panel and a bigger clock here. I also prefer a little different settings for the Whisker menu, which is main menu. This is how it looks by default, so you have your favorite applications here, and here you have different categories. I already like that you can switch categories just by moving your mouse, so every category switches on hover, but I prefer to have this category on the left side. You can easily do that. If you right click here, go to Properties, and here you can select between different menu styles. But I usually change only the settings which is called Position Categories next to the panel button. So now the Whisker menu looks like this. I can quickly navigate between different categories and select application which I need. I also not very happy with the default theme in MX Linux. To me it looks a little bit old, so this is how it looks by default. I think there are better color schemes than this one, so I prefer to change my theme. And there are two ways you can do it in MX Linux. One is the easiest way, and for that you use MX Tools. You go to Tweak, and here in Theme tab you can select between different pre-installed themes. For example, MX Dark looks quite nice. Here it is. You can also select themes with thicker borders if you have difficulties selecting borders here. But I prefer to use XFCE built-in tools to tweak my theme even more. And I have a separate video where I have showed my top 5 favorite XFCE themes and how to configure your XFCE with a simple one-click application. But in this video I will show you how you can change different themes using XFCE menu. For that you need to go to Appearance, and here as you can see you have many more themes to select from. All these themes are already pre-installed, and I actually like this Arc Dark theme or Arc Light. Actually they are both very good. And you can also select different icons here. There are already good themes pre-installed, for example Namex icons are quite nice, but I have installed additional icon set which is called Arc icons. To me these icons are much better, and you can get them from xfcelook.org website, so this is the theme, or you can use Link Software Center, which I have introduced in one of my previous videos. So this theme looks much better. The only problem with this theme is that MX Linux tweaked their panel, and by default it is dark panel, but the task menu here has white color scheme. So that's why you need to adjust it a little more. But the dark theme looks quite nice, so I will keep the dark theme. I think if MX Linux had Arc Dark theme by default, it would look much better. To show you what DockBarX does to your system, this is how it looks by default, and this is after you install DockBarX. I like DockBarX panel much more, so let me show you how to install it. For that you need to go to the MX Linux package installer, and here you need to search for DockBarX. You need to search for that in Stable Repo tab. After you have done the search, you need to select DockBarX and XFCE DockBarX plugin. Select these two packages and install them. Okay. After the installation, right click on the panel, go to Panel, Panel Preferences, then you need to go to the tab Items, and here you can remove these two launchers. At least that's what I do on my system. I also remove window buttons, and I click on this plus sign and search for DockBarX plugin here. Add it. So it has been added to the right part of your panel. You can select it and click on this up arrow and move it to where you want, which is actually here, just before the workspace switcher. Now, as you can see, this panel looks a bit better, but the default theme may be not the nicest one, so you can click on this menu, search for DockBarX Preferences, and here in the Appearance tab you can select different themes. Pick the one you want. I actually like the deep theme, and I select it here in these both things, and then click refresh button. Okay, now it has changed, but it doesn't work correctly yet. This is because you need to log out and log in. Let me do that. Let's open File Manager. Now it looks much better. You can right click on this menu and select different options here, or if you just navigate you will see the preview of this window, like here. You can right click and pin this application, so whenever you close it, it will stay in the panel, and when you click on it, it will launches. And you can launch several applications and they will be grouped together here. I also usually add Firefox here and move it to the left. So these are the two pinned applications which I usually have on my system, but you can pin as many of them as you want. And to me this sort of Windows 7 style taskbar is much better than the default XFCE taskbar. Let me know if you like it. And of course, to complete our theme tweaking, we need to change the theme for this Conky application. To do that, you go to the menu, search for Conky, and select Conky Manager here. And then you will see a number of themes which are already pre-installed. I usually disable the default theme, then I scroll down and enable MX full theme. But you can try many other themes, maybe you will like something else. But this is my favorite theme. It shows quite a lot of useful information here. You have the date, time, you have information about your system, then you can see how much memory it uses, what's your CPU activity. You can also see here what is the most active process in terms of CPU usage and RAM. And you can also see, of course, your network usage, disk usage, and how many disks you have mounted on your system. To me, it is much more informative than the default one. There is last small touch which I also changed in my MX Linux in the terminal theme. I think it's great that MX Linux team tried to tweak the terminal a bit, and I particularly like this bash theme here, which is very nice. But unfortunately, the transparency to me is too high, and I prefer a little bit less transparent terminal. And to do that, you need to go to Preferences, Appearance, and here in Opacity tab, you can reduce your opacity, or you can make it completely untransparent. I usually prefer to have my terminal untransparent, but of course it is a matter of taste, and maybe you like the default terminal. Install popular apps. MX Linux comes with a number of pre-installed apps, and you will find many useful applications here. But you may not find everything you need, so that's why I also recommend you to install a few more apps here. And you can easily install those apps if you go to MX Package Installer. And here in the first tab, which is called Popular Applications, you will find many useful applications. And I have to say here that MX Linux have done a very good job in terms of selecting these applications. If I had to create the same app, I would select almost the same programs as they did. So, for example, here you can install Chromium browser in addition to Firefox browser. Or you can also install Google Chrome if you prefer that. But I recommend you to use Chromium because it is open source browser. In audio, you can also install additional players. MX Linux has Clementine player, which is installed by default. To me, it is quite heavy player, so if I had to use XFCE, I would use some lighter player. That's why I recommend you to install Deadbeef. It is much better player in my view. It still has all the necessary functionality, but it is lighter and more minimalistic. And then you can go through all other categories and install all the necessary programs. You can also use search here and search for the necessary applications. For example, I need to install Zoom, and here it is, I select it. I also still have to use Skype, so I install Skype on my system. It is also available in MX Linux. Even if you need to use Microsoft Teams, you can also find them here. Here it is. And finally, if you need to play games, you can install Steam, which is also available here. After you have selected all the applications you want to install on your MX Linux, click Install. OK, and after the installation, all these applications will be available in your menu. Another useful application which I recommend to install is called Redshift. It is a special application which deserves a separate thing to do after installing MX Linux. It reduces the amount of blue light on your screen, which is better for your eyes, and it also helps you to fall asleep easily if you work at night in front of your computer. Many Linux distros have Redshift built in, and you can just enable it in the settings. MX Linux does not, but you can easily install and enable it. To do that, you need to open MX Installer, go to Stable Repo tab, and search for Redshift. And here you need to select Redshift GTK and install it. After the installation, open it from the menu, and you will see it appears in the system tray. If you click on it, make sure it is enabled, and you can also enable it for auto start. Now, the amount of blue light will be reduced at your screen at night, which is better for your health. Yes, in spite that Ablocker is installed in MX Linux, you need to enable it to make it work, because by default it doesn't work. For example, if I go to this website which allows to test for ads blocks, you will see it has some ads here. Let's see if we will get these ads after we enable ad blocker. And to enable it, you just need to open it, enter your password, click OK to proceed, and here you just need to select these pre-configured lists. OK, so Adblocker will download and install all the necessary information to block all known ads. So now let's test it again. If we go to this web page and reload it. Oh, it still has ads. Let's restart Firefox. Now the ads are blocked, as you can see. We don't see them anymore. So we're supposed to have an ad here, but there is no ad, because Adblocker has blocked it. So now it works. If you wondered before why it doesn't work, it is simple. You just need to enable all those ad blocking lists. To improve the security of your Mac Linux, you can enable Firewall, which is pre-installed by default. You just need to go to the menu, open Firewall, configuration, and here you just need to enable it. And that's it. The default settings deny incoming and allow outgoing is usually fine. If you want to learn more how to use Firewall in Linux, I have a dedicated video where I show additional settings for this Firewall application. And I also talked about whether you need Firewall in Linux or not. Please watch it. And the last thing I do after installing Mac Linux is to remove all the games. Because these games which are pre-installed here, I don't know, maybe somebody plays them, but I don't play them, and I think they're useless and just take space, not only in this menu, but in general on your system. You can easily remove them. For that you need to open Synaptic. Synaptic is actually a main package manager of Emacs Linux in addition to Emacs installer, but Emacs installer is limited only to suggested apps and you can use it to install apps. If you want to remove some applications, I recommend you to use Synaptic Package Manager, because it has all the features necessary to find packages and remove them. Here on the left category you need to select sections, scroll down and find games. Here it is. Next you need to click on this S button and sort applications by if they installed on your system or not. And you can see at the top I have a couple of applications which are pre-installed already, and these are actually the games which we have seen in the games menu. You select them, right click and mark for complete removal. After that click apply button. You can check again what will be removed, and you will also see that other packages are not changed here, which is fine. Click apply. Here you can also enable to automatically close this window if everything is applied successfully. So now all the games are removed and our system is a little bit cleaner, and we don't have games menu here anymore, and we also released some space on our system to install something more useful. And remember, if you want to play some more advanced games, you can install Steam, which I have showed in the previous thing to do after installing Emacs Linux. I hope these 20 things to do after installing Emacs Linux were useful. If there is something you would add, please leave it in the comment section below. I will be happy to read it, and I believe many viewers of this video will also appreciate it.